Menscape The Podcast with Carl.J. Ashley.
Good evening and welcome to the May edition of the Menscape Podcast, sponsored by The Right Coach, www.rightcoach.ie, for anyone who is interested in writing a book or has a story to tell. This month's guest is the one and only Mr. Gary Digpal. How are you doing, Gary?
I'm good, thanks, Carl. How are you?
Not too bad now. Thanks for joining us.
Good. Glad to be here.
Whereabouts are you this evening? Where are you joining us from?
I'm in Monaleen, Limerick.
Monaleen in Limerick. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you and what do you do?
I'm Gary Digpal. I do very little these days, but I've had quite a varied life. I'm an entrepreneur, I suppose, a businessman, and sometimes I've always been self-employed. That's me in a nutshell. At the moment, I have a pool club in Limerick. I also co-run a cleaning company with my wife, which keeps us busy. And then on the personal side, I look after my mother and try to look after myself the best I can post-surgery.
Yeah. So you've had one or two sort of health concerns lately. What's going on for you?
Yeah, well, in 2021, May 21, I was in Greece and I proposed to my partner, now my wife.
She said yes then.
May 21. And then October 21, I was diagnosed with cancer in my stomach, which is hereditary and is a history of stomach cancer in the family.
Wow.
We got married in March 22, and I had surgery then to remove my stomach, a complete gastrectomy, in April 22. And now I'm trying to get myself together, if you pardon the pun.
That sounds like a huge life-changing moment for sure.
Oh, it is life-changing. And if I knew what it meant, I probably would have thought twice about it. I'm glad I did it because I have grandchildren, I have children, and I love them to bits. And it's good to be here and watch them grow.
Yeah.
You seem a bit perplexed now. It's, having this done, it is a big deal, but I'm still here to fight the fight and tell the story. So in that sense, it's a very positive story.
Yeah, we met through Limerick Pool, and I think it was a mutual friend of ours had a 50th birthday in Benidorm, and a few hustlers packed their bags and spent a week in the sun. And I found you to be a very amiable and respectable companion. And I was going through a very difficult time in my life there, post sort of family separation. I'd lost my dad, I'd lost my wife, I'd lost my home. And I was going through a phase of just, a lot of grief coming up. And the connection with the pool, I see you're still at the green bays.
I am. I enjoy playing pool. I don't play as much as I used to for several different reasons. But
quite.
When we met, I have to say I recognised what you were going through, having been through it myself many years earlier. So it was easy to connect with you and to understand where you were at. Hence, that we got on so well.
Yeah, what happens in Benidorm stays in Benidorm. What happens on tour stays
absolutely,
on tour.
Absolutely. We're not going to give any details. It was good fun, great time had. A bit of healing done as well.
For sure.
So that's all positive.
I always thought pool was a young fella's game. I played pool up until I was about 21. I was in and out of pubs, playing for money, staying on the table for 7, 8, 9 games in a row, infuriating locals. My dad had about 7 locals in Wakefield, and they all had different rules. And I'd be hustling on each and every single one of the pool tables, playing different rules in each pub. And then I just got to an age where I got bored with pool. It just seemed like it was too easy. And then I got into snooker. And I was never really that good at snooker. My best ever break was like 50 odd. And that was like just 3 or 4 minutes of just pure sublime ease, no thinking, just getting down and doing it. These days, I don't really play much of either snooker or pool, but I found pool very challenging when I went back to it. I thought I'd find it easy again, but it was like, whoa, pool and snooker's gone difficult. But maybe that's just because I spent a lot of my life drinking and smoking, and maybe my eyesight isn't what it could be.
Oh.
But I see a few of you guys still got the knack. You don't lose it.
Well, I wouldn't say you don't lose it.
You don't lose it in a rush.
Sorry?
You wouldn't lose it in a rush if you keep playing, if you keep at it.
But that's really it, isn't it? It's keeping at it, because I took a break, and unfortunately I had an operation on my shoulder, and I didn't play for about coming on to 14 years.
Right.
So, and when I came back to the table, I couldn't hit a ball straight at all. It took me a good while to get back into it. Now, post that 14 years, I've been back at the table for 12 years now. So what you see now is probably the result of 12 years of practice, getting back, and a bit of memory muscle from my previous game.
Are you playing every day or just every week, or what kind of schedule would you like to?
At the moment, if I get a couple of hours once or twice a week, that's as much as I get. Generally, at least once a week, I'll get out for a couple of hours.
Very good. And tell us about
snooker table is a completely different challenge.
Totally different sort of dynamics and angles. I just don't know. I found I had great patience, and a lot of people didn't. And I could beat people at snooker by just having patience. I'd obviously always meet a player who had patience in abundance like myself, and also some tenacity. I remember some ding dong snooker matches with Tony Markham in the Shannon club that was run by Lenny Shanahan a few years ago, before Lenny had to close it down. And every now and again, I'd meet someone who was equally tenacious and patient. But I wouldn't describe myself as having huge amounts of ability. I had an eye every now and again, but the snooker was hard work and just patience and practice like that.
Yeah.
Enjoyed doing competitions with the pool. Tell us a little bit more about the birth of Munster CueSports and how you got involved in that.
Oh, now there's a story for you. But during lockdown, my good lady was kind enough to allow me to put a pool table in the sitting room, because we weren't going anywhere, and we had a teenager who was stuck in his bedroom on computer games, and I was missing the table and at the end of my tether most days, because I can't sit still and do nothing. That's just not in my nature. So we cut a long story short, we got a pool table, and there was just a couple of old fellas over 50 like myself that I was inviting up, and we'd have a few frames, and the young fella would come out of his bedroom and play a few frames with me. So we achieved what we wanted to with that table. But one of my friends said to me, "It's great that Sue lets us come up and play, but she is going to get sick of us sooner or later. So, we should really find a place that we can stick a table into and, have somewhere to go and play."
Mm-hmm.
And after that conversation, he set about sending me loads of links to different places that were vacant. And I rung around and spoke to a few friends that I knew that were in the property business. And I eventually found a place. Now, to say it was a mess, it was a mess. But it was affordable. And the idea was that we'd put a couple of tables in and club together and just pay whatever the rent between the four of us or eight of us or however many got involved, and we'd have somewhere to go and play pool. Now, in the process of lockdown and COVID and everything else, the two venues in Limerick that were available to pool players had closed down. So we had this place and we were doing it for ourselves, and all of a sudden, like, there was people knocking on the door and saying, there's nowhere to play pool. So we decided that we wouldn't be selfish and that we'd open it up and make pool available to everybody.
Yeah.
But of course, as you know, there are elements and associations with pool, i.e. alcohol and bad behaviour, that we really didn't need the headache of. So we consciously decided absolutely no alcohol in the club.
Yeah.
It was for people that wanted to play pool. People that wanted to go to drink could go to the pub and drink. They're not the people that we were really aiming to attract anyway or facilitate. So that was the birth of the Munster CueSports as we know it. It was a personal club that opened up as a members club.
Yeah, the one I think I'm in Ireland about 21, 22 years now. One of the first clubs I played pool in Limerick was down near the castle. That's
Sticks.
going back a long time. Yeah, Sticks. And it looked a little rough, or there was one or two a bit rough around the edges characters in there, but it was a good vibe about the place. And then there was the Victoria in the basement of an old sort of
Heartstone Street, yeah,
in town, which was owned by a friend of mine, John Heaton, and he.
I know John very well.
Yeah, he rented it out to the lads there, but unfortunately that fell by the wayside as well. That was a listed building. He couldn't do as much as far in it without permission.
Yes,
beautiful building. They turned it into a museum for Angela's ashes, right?
That's right.
Run by his wife Una. That was a success in its own right. And then was it called St. Michael's, the place down near the Garda Street? The street Garda station, should I say?
Lower Cyril Street,
near the Glen
Cecil Street. Yeah, next to the post office. That's right.
And they all closed down at the same time.
No, the Vic closed. I could tell you because I got it on my phone. I actually sold the snooker tables from the Vic because John approached me and he said, the club's closed and I've left the tables there, and they're going to go in the bin. So whatever you sell them for, like we'll go halves on it, and that's what I did. I sold the tables and gave half to John, and I took half, and that was the end of the Victoria Snooker Club.
Shame.
It is a shame. It is a shame because that's the first place I played snooker or pool. Yeah, thoroughly enjoyed that.
You said
me and Tony Markham actually won the doubles championship one year in the Victoria Club.
Yeah, Tony was a tough opponent. I used to love our matches. We were both equally tenacious and patient. Yeah.
Lovely gentleman. But he's living in Scotland at the moment.
Right. Yeah.
God bless
him well.
Yeah.
Hopefully he's watching.
Yeah, he's in good form, man. I haven't seen. Well, I went to see him last week to give my condolences. Unfortunately, his mother passed away in the funeral last week. But that's another thing. Limerick and the pool and snooker have attracted some lovely characters along the way, and you do meet some lovely people during tournaments and games, which is another side of Limerick that not many people actually see and relate to.
In
But
my,
it is there.
I think it was my first book, the Fox and the Scorpion meets Cold Turkey. I wrote about how disappointing it was to see Limerick kind of dumbed down in the national media. You'd see a lot of negative stories about Limerick in the Irish press, and you wouldn't hear the same kind of stuff about Cork or Dublin or Galway, even though the same kind of stuff was happening in the other cities. And I felt Limerick was treated unfairly in that regard. But I, like yourself, had a good experience in Limerick. I met good people. I went to good places, ate in nice restaurants, and there's a lot to be said for Limerick. There's a positive side to it that doesn't really get the attention that it deserves. Yeah,
I totally agree.
Yeah, but that's going back a while now. I think with Limerick as All Ireland hurling champions for the last 3 or 4 years, they've stamped and cemented their their authority on the Gaelic games and made people sit up and listen and pay attention to Limerick being the sporting capital of Ireland. If Galway is quite studenty and cultural, and Cork is very sort of with business. Limerick has a huge sporting pedigree and fantastic facilities up at UL, and now All Ireland champions. So I can't see Limerick going away anytime soon.
No, and that brings me on to the thoughts. I first came to Limerick as a visitor in the early 80s.
I was going to say, Gary, that's not a Mona Lean accent you got there.
No, I schooled in London. My family's originally from India, but no, I came to, well, as I said, I came to Ireland for the first time in the early 81, I think it was. And, I instantly fell in love with the place. I stayed in the Castle Oaks just out the road there and overlooking the Shannon. And I actually decided that I wanted to live in Ireland within a few hours of my very first visit. Now, I moved over to Ireland in '94. I had a telecoms company and set up an office in Dublin. And I've been living in Limerick since 2001. And this is very much home for me. And when I hear people knock Limerick or run it down, I do get offended, and I do take it personally because it has been my home for over 2 decades. And, when I go traveling, which I do quite regularly and often, I look forward to coming home and home being here in Limerick, So for me, the other side then is the changes. So, you quite rightly said about the media and the press running Limerick down, but then the development and the companies that have opened office and opened plants here, like Johnson and Johnson and Northern Trust on the other side. They've attracted some huge worldwide business. And it certainly has put Limerick back on the map for more positive reasons, and I'm delighted to see it.
Yeah. I moved out of Limerick there a week before lockdown. I was slapped between Cardiff and Moyross on the old Cratloe Road, handy for town and handy for a lot of things. And I enjoyed where I was. And I'm a Tipperary man now for the last 3 years, but I still go back to Limerick quite often. Yeah.
Were you born in Limerick, Carl?
I was born in Tameside in Ashton-under-Lyne in Manchester, northwest of England. Yeah. But two of my kids were born in Limerick. Yeah.
Right. Right. So do you see yourself as a tip man, a Limerick man, or Mancunian?
Oh, good question. I'm a kind of wherever I lay my hat, that's my home kind of guy. Home
Okay.
is where the heart is. I'm quite a nomad at heart, but
Mm,
I fell in love with West Clare, and I lived in Clare for 15 years. So Clare
okay.
had always been my first love in Ireland. And
Okay.
I lived in 6 Mile Bridge for about 14 years between living in Limerick. So, yeah, I think Clare was what stole my heart many moons ago for,
Right.
for one reason and another.
Oh, okay. I won't pry.
But no, I was quite lucky because I could be fond of Clare and Limerick, being from neither. Whereas everyone in Clare
Right.
didn't like Limerick, and everyone in Limerick didn't like Clare. There was a huge rivalry with the hurling, which carries on to this day, similar to Tip and Kilkenny. The Clare Galway rivalry was a bit friendlier than the Clare Limerick rivalry, but you pick up on these things, and
Yeah.
yeah, no, Clare was where I spent a huge chunk of my Irish life so far, but still very much a Mancunian at heart, you know? Yeah.
Okay.
What was it, Morrissey? Morrissey had an album called English Blood, Irish Heart, or something like that. Well,
Okay.
I'm something like, oh, was it English Heart, Irish Blood? And I'm
Right.
English Blood, Irish Heart. I can't remember, whichever way around. Whatever Morrissey said, I'm the opposite. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And your parents, are they from Limerick?
No, my mother and my father were both from Manchester. I
Okay.
had no Irish connection whatsoever when I came here.
And did they?
No, no. I left Ashton-under-Lyne with no money, no job, no car, and a partner and 2 babies in 2001. And I emigrated for a better life for my children.
To Limerick.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Can I ask you why you chose Limerick?
Well, it's a long story, best told over over a drink. But um, my ex-partner's parents had moved over a couple of years before us, and they were in a place called Ballygreen.
Okay.
So we rocked up in Newmarket on Fergus, was where we were. So we rocked up in Clare, and I suppose you had Ennis, which was kind of close-ish, but then Limerick was kind of the main town that you'd go to for a bit of action or looking for work or what have you. So hence, and I liked the fact that Limerick had a nice, simple kind of grid. The layout of the streets was straightforward. I could learn where I was going and how not to get lost fairly quickly, but I spent most of my days getting lost all over the streets of Clare and Limerick when I was doing door-to-door sales, you know.
Okay. Okay. I'm intrigued now. What is it you were selling?
Well, to begin with, I got a job in a factory called Banter as part of the Dell setup, and then I got a job in the
Yes.
factory in
Yeah, I
Dell.
think I remember them.
And I still meet people in Limerick to this day from Banter and Dell. Then I got a job with a company called Chorus.
Oh, yes. Telecoms company. Or Chorus. Yeah, they were telecoms, weren't they? Telecoms stroke TV.
The modern incarnation of which I think is Virgin or cable.
Yeah.
And then after selling Chorus, I sold Aircon, where I was one of the top sales reps in the country for Aircon, making good money and doing well. And then I sold Sky. So I did a lot of door-to-door all over Clare and Limerick, selling Aircon and Sky and Chorus. Yeah. That was an education at the University of Life, you know?
Yes. Yes.
Door-to-door sales. Yeah, you meet them all.
Selling per se. I mean, that's really where it's at. Nothing in the world moves until a sale is made.
Everything you look
you
at,
may
my dad used
you
to
may
say,
or may not guess that I'm a sales background.
everything you look at has either been bought or sold.
Absolutely.
Commerce
Absolutely.
is what makes the world go around. Yeah.
It certainly does. And that's the system that's been created.
What I used to find was black, white, gay, straight, fat, thin, rich, poor, English, Irish, whatever. I met them all. And in some of the roughest places, rough as a bear's ass, you'd meet some of the most beautiful, genuine people. You could never judge a book by its cover.
No. That's a fantastic observation and so true. It's amazing, where you come across lovely people and where you come across some not so lovely people as well. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I've got a few questions for you.
Go ahead.
Have you ever written a book?
I have written, not had published or not gone public with, no, not a full book.
Not
I've
yet.
just written
In the pipeline.
bits. Yeah.
Yeah, I reckon there's a book in you, mate. We'll have a word
Probably.
with the rightcoach.ie and see if we can get you on your either self-publishing or publishing through. Everyone has a story to tell. Yeah, it'd be great to see that. Have you ever jumped out of a plane?
No.
Ridden a horse?
Yes.
Driven a Ferrari?
Yes.
Cheated death?
Several times.
Have you ever been abducted by aliens?
Not that I know of, no.
Have you ever eaten an insect?
Yes.
Have you ever had children?
Several.
How many?
7.
7 kids. And you mentioned grandchildren earlier as well.
And 2 stepchildren.
Congratulations.
And 4 grandchildren, yeah.
Wow. Have you ever walked on hot coals?
No.
Have you ever done public speaking?
Yes.
They say there's only one fear greater than death itself, and that's the fear of public speaking.
Well, I've done quite a lot of it. I'd done a good few seminars and worked with lots of different sales teams.
Very good. Yeah. What is your favorite holiday or your best trip abroad, and why?
Oh, well, there's a couple, but I would narrow it down to 2: Malta and Dubai, and they were both a part of my honeymoon, and it was just before surgery, and I knew I was coming back to have surgery after them holidays, and the fact that I just got married and I had the woman that I loved beside me, for all of those reasons, and they're beautiful places.
What a sweetheart.
So,
good answer. Yeah, but so tell me, like, Malta and Dubai sounds like a huge contrast. On the one hand, you've got ancient and kind of a bit of mystery, and on the other, you've got sort of brand new and a lot of wealth and opulence. Is that fair to say, or?
Well, you got a lot of both in both places, really.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of history in Malta as well, and but there's a lot of wealth in Malta. Now the population difference and the opulence, I suppose, it is there. It is there, but it's more showy in Dubai. I mean, the rich and poor gap is much more obvious in Dubai. Where I went to was right on the edge of old Dubai, and the building, can't even remember the name of the hotel now, but it was quite a tall building, and from one window we could see old Dubai. And if we crossed the apartment that it was an apartment, but it was just our room, our honeymoon suite. And if we walked across and looked out of the other window, we could see New Dubai. And the difference was so obvious and apparent, and the buildings, and oh, what a fabulous place, though.
Right.
Yeah.
So how long were you in Dubai?
10 days.
And how long were you in Malta?
10 days.
And when you say Malta, it conjures up images of Tony Drago, the whirlwind snooker player from the 80s.
Exactly that place.
Yeah.
Yeah, we done a fair bit of trotting around Malta. Malta's quite a small island, and we had the luxury of our own vehicle at our behest. So, you know, we were chauffeured around wherever we wanted to go, and saw some lovely places. And it is a beautiful country, and the sun is shining. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Dubai, it was a lot hotter. You know, and the shopping malls, you could spend a week in the shopping mall and not cover the whole thing quite easily. Yeah. But lovely places to eat. I suppose one of the things that stick in my head is my wife stuck me into a pool competition without telling me.
In Dubai?
In Dubai, yeah. She spotted a poster for a competition and put my name in it. And then the following day, he said, like, we'll go there for something to eat. I said, we went there yesterday. We'll go somewhere else. No, we'll go there. And I'm sitting there, and then it all started. And I was mad to play. And I was thinking to myself, I'm on my honeymoon. I'm not going to go start bloody playing pool. And I got my wife with me. But little did I know, she stuck me in. Thank God I won it. So that was a lovely little bonus.
That's a great story. Yeah.
And I won the equivalent of just under 500 euros, which was went a long way to us enjoying ourselves even more.
A win is a win.
Yeah.
Win is a win, Gary.
Delighted. Yeah.
And how many matches do you have to win a tournament like that? Is there quite a lot?
Well, there were over 40 entries, and we started at 6 p.m. and probably got out of there after 3 o'clock in the morning or something. Maybe a little later than that.
So you need a bit of stamina as well as ability, right?
Oh yeah, and I have to admit I was quite inebriated in that final, but fortunately for me, so was my opponent.
That's a great story. I love that your wife did that for you.
Yeah. I was surprised. Well, I shouldn't have been surprised. Look, it was a great touch. It was.
So on to the next question. What are your favorite books, and which books would you recommend either to the other in the Menscape group or to a wider audience beyond that? You seem like a fairly learned man. What books have you ever read that have changed
I love reading.
Yeah.
I think my favorite would be Deepak Chopra, 7 Spiritual Laws of Success. That I would recommend to absolutely everybody. And very simple, very easy to read, very easy to follow, and it makes an immense difference. The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle. Another fantastic book. Celestine's Prophecy, John Rainford. I think it's a long time since I've read it.
James Redfield, I think it was.
James Redfield, you're right. Absolutely. Celestine's Prophecy.
I found that incredible. I think it was in the 90s in Leeds I came across that.
Oh, yeah. So it's got to be, nigh on 30 years ago I read it.
Wow. Yeah. The Celestine Prophecy, The Power of Now, and the Seven
Spiritual Laws of Success
by Deepak Chopra.
Yeah. They would be the ones that stand out for me.
And have you always had an interest in spiritual matters and spiritual things? Did you have a kind of a background in that through being sort of from Indian parents or Indian culture, or what way did that happen?
It's good. It's good that you asked that, because I was a company lad from East London, really, and I went to India in my mid-teens. I was full of anger. A lot of things were challenging for me. We'll put it that way. I was having a tough time, and for the first time, I met my grandfather, and that's my mother's father, and he was very spiritual, and I weren't having any of it. I'd question everything, and things occurred that I needed evidence, and he provided evidence in abundance, and I suppose he dispelled any disbelief that I had, and got me on track.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. So I learned, or I started to learn to meditate around the age of 14, and it was him and his ways. An amazing man.
What part of India were you in?
Punjab.
That's where he was. That's in the northwest or north.
It is.
Yeah.
North. Yeah. North India. But yeah, as I said, when I first arrived there, I absolutely questioned everything.
For sure.
And there was answers to all my questions. I'll put it that way, and then it was a case of suck it and see. And to be honest, I went from being angry to being grateful very quickly.
Right.
And shortly after that, being calm. And then shortly after that, the ability to accept that the universe is absolutely perfect as it is. It doesn't need me to interfere with it.
There's a lot of wisdom in those awarenesses. Yeah.
It really is. It's an eye opener. When you realise just how insignificant you are, but then at the same token, you realise how much power you have.
I think the two go hand in hand. I think once you realise how insignificant you are, describe life in 3 words. It goes on, no matter what you're dealing with or suffering with or struggling with. Life goes on, and it's only when you really appreciate that you're just a drop in the ocean, and the way the word they're insignificant, that kind of opens the door then to actually realizing how unbelievably significant we are. Life is a miracle, and every single one of us is special needs, and if you accept that your divine will manifests in a man or a woman, and that you have powers of creation, as above, so below, we have these powers through virtue of a human rebirth, where you can literally write a list of what you want to realize and find that list in 10 years' time and watch your jaw drop as every single one of them gets ticked off, because you manifested that. And I believe if you're a good person and you do good things will happen to you. Yeah, I see that, and I believe that. Yeah.
100%. And there's same way, if you're negative minded and your thoughts are negative, the negative things will happen to you also, because that's what you're manifesting.
So the power of positive thinking began for you at the age of 13 or 14. You met your granddad and you saw some proof or some kind of evidence, and you went from being a kind of an angry young man to being a calmer kind of guy. Any other books on that recommended book list that come to mind other than the ones you mentioned?
Well, Oh, there's thousands. There's absolutely thousands. And you know, when you go about your daily thoughts and relationships between things that you've read and your current situation pop up all the time. But when you're put on the spot and you're asked to think of something, that that becomes a different challenge. And you know, on a normal day, I could probably list 10 or 12. And
Yeah,
right now,
not
I
to
can't
worry.
think of a single one, but it'll
Not
come
to
to
worry.
me as we chat.
Not to worry. How much of an influence was the granddad when you got back to London? Did you keep in touch?
Yeah. Well, I went visiting every year after that.
Okay.
You know, I spent between 4 and 6 weeks with him each year. And in my later years, then when I achieved some sort of financial success, I used to go a couple of times a year because I could afford to.
What was his name?
Yeah. Darshan,
Spell that.
Darshan.
So kudos to Darshan. And
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
if there's a book
Unfortunately, he
in
passed
you,
away in 2010, and
yeah,
it took me 8 years. I didn't go back home for 8 years because I just didn't want to go and see his place without him in it.
of course.
That took a big chunk out of me for a long time.
And now, of course,
Yeah, no,
yeah,
absolutely.
he's
He
probably
kept me
with
on
you
the
every
straight and
day.
narrow. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I feel that way. I don't know how or why, but I believe that our ancestors, our passed over loved ones, are with us all the time and helping guide us. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're evidence of them. But the thing, just if I may go back to my grandpa, he was a professional fighter,
Right.
and now he was well retired. But he did have students that came to him that he trained and coached. So I fell in with them, and you know, I learned to fight with my mind as much as my body through that. It's called Gusti, and that had a huge impact on me in learning to respect others as much as learning to protect myself. You know, I was never, unfortunately, I was never shy of fighting, but I was fighting the wrong people for the wrong reasons. You know, but yeah, that I think was a huge growth in me, that period, my first few months with my grandfather.
And is that what you described there, like an Indian martial art, or?
It is, yeah.
I can't say I ever heard of it before, so you're educating me today.
Well, you'd say martial art. There is a martial art there. I can't think of what it's actually called. But Gusti was more like wrestling. And instead of having the ropes and the ring, it was literally a square cut out in the ground. So there was a ring as such, but it was in the ground. And the idea would be that you've got to get both your opponent's shoulder blades onto the ground, flat onto the ground for 3 seconds. You know, in order to defeat them.
And that can be from knocking them out or pinning them down.
Yeah.
So you'd want to be able to be fairly handy.
Well, it certainly doesn't harm the old fitness level.
I can honestly say, as a young fella, I was always a fast runner and a fast talker, and therefore a completely useless fighter. I wasn't any good at fighting. I was I was fairly good looking, and I sought to preserve those good looks, and running fast and talking fast usually helped me in that endeavor. But my brother was a fighter. He played rugby union, and my dad was was a fighter. He was a bouncer and a rugby union man as well. So
Okay.
I think I was the exception in our family through not fighting. But yeah, what else have we got here? Favorite movies? Any movies that come to mind that you loved, that would have had an
Yeah.
impact, so that you'd recommend?
Well, I suppose my favourite go-to movie would be Snatch.
Yeah,
And,
brilliant. Yeah,
I've watched it umpteen times, and it still makes me laugh. So I totally enjoy Snatch. Then Lorenzo's Oil is a great story.
the soundtrack for Snatch was absolutely brilliant. I was totally hooked on that movie. The kind of juxtaposition between the kind of the gangsters, but then the comedy and the whole kind of the irony and the different I thought that was brilliantly produced, and the soundtrack was fantastic as well.
Absolutely.
Lorenzo's Oil, I can't say I heard of. I'll go away and find out about that and watch that.
Nick Nolte, definitely worth a watch. His son is ill, and he refuses to accept that there's no remedy for his son.
Okay.
And his son, Lorenzo, he creates an oil to heal his son. Fantastic movie.
Yeah, we'll check it out. What's your favorite crystal and why? Bit random, I know.
My favorite crystal. I actually love them all. I do keep crystals. Do I have a favorite? I don't actually have a favorite. I just, I go to my crystals at different times, depending on my mood, and I let them attract me as opposed to I attract them.
Yeah, interesting, isn't it?
Whichever one that I feel attracted to at the time, I'll sit and hold in my palm while I meditate.
Yeah.
So that's how I work with crystals. But do I have a favorite? No, I don't.
You see that?
Hmm.
I don't know if you can see that. That's a shungite Merkaba.
Okay.
And it comes from Russia, or the Russian Republic of Kerala, which I think is on the border between Russia and Finland. And it's for protection, like most of the black crystals, like black obsidian and black tourmaline and shungite. We found a company in Russia that shipped and packaged the most amazing different forms of shungite, whether it was pyramids, whether it was Merkaba, and what have you. And like that, the crystals, they're like my children, they're like my babies. They just, I don't know, they draw me and attract me and pull me in. And it only really started about 5 years ago. I've kind of gone from being a spliff rolling, pint swilling, jukebox playing, pool sharking lad to being a guy that fucking meditates with crystals, man.
Lovely. That's growth.
That's transformation as well. I also do healing work now, and have overcome addictions and depression and lack of self-love, poverty consciousness, and all the rest of it. I transcended in some respects a lot of difficulties that I would have just been entrenched in, maybe through culture, maybe through society, maybe just through life, and not knowing any better.
It happens. I went through a period where I think I was just try anything, the legalities of it wouldn't have stopped me anyway.
Well, they reckon you should try everything at least once except for incest and folk dancing. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I've tried folk dancing and I quite enjoyed it.
So, what else do we have? I think we've pretty much done it. Glitch in the Matrix story. Have you ever had an experience that's completely revolutionized your perception of reality? I dare say you have.
Sorry, say that again to me, Carl.
Have you a glitch in the Matrix story?
A glitch in the Matrix. Sorry, explain that to me now.
So something that happened that completely revolutionized your perception of what you thought was reality.
Well, two things that I suppose. One was going on the operating table, and prior to going on the operating table, the thing that I don't understand is fear. You know, because I didn't know what was going to happen there. I can't say I was excited about it, but I was curious to what was going to happen next. I wasn't afraid. So I don't know if that's a glitch, but yeah, that was life altering, because I've come out now, and I have to say I am far less patient with bullshit than I was before.
Yeah,
You know, that's one thing. But something happened to me many years ago, which I think was a definite glitch. I was going on my way to a picnic with my wife and children, and we were walking along the banks of the Shannon, and there were half a dozen girls paddling, 7, 8 years of age, and one of the girls' father and another guy was on the bank watching for their safety. And as we went up, not very far past, my wife turned around and screamed that one of the girls was drowning. And we ran back, and I gave my baby to my oldest son, who was about 10 at the time.
mm-hmm.
And by the time I had done that, the father had jumped in while we were running back. But I saw a look on his face that it haunts me even to today, and it was fear. You know, he couldn't swim. He jumped into the water and he froze. And there were two girls drowning. And my wife jumped in and got him out. But while she was going over to him, I dived in like an idiot. I could have hit a rock or anything. You know, I didn't think, just went straight into the water. I went over to the two girls. They both grabbed my arms. Naturally, hold on to anything you can. And the three of us started going down. And I see the light disappearing. And the thought that went through my head, my life didn't flash by me or anything like that. But a very clear thought went through my head. And it was, is this the way I end? That was the actual thought. Is this the way I end? And whatever happened, the answer was no, by the way, because I managed to get myself and the two girls back up above the water, and the other lad that was there had thrown a boy and got one of the girls out, and we all managed to get out quite safely that day. That definitely told me, like, it wasn't their time. The two girls, it wasn't their time, and it wasn't my time, and that wasn't the way it was supposed to end. You know,
It's a great story, Gary. But however, it would have been a very noble death.
Well, if that's what was meant to be, that's what would have happened. You know, but now here's human beings for you. Now, obviously, the parents were delighted. You know, we got their children out safely, but because of who they were, some of the villagers weren't very happy with me saving them, which is an awful thing. But that happens to be a fact. Yeah, it weren't both of them. It was one of the girls belonged to a family that the rest of the village didn't like very much.
Well, you want to know that you just acted on impulse and being a good bloke.
Well,
you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't know the girls at all. I didn't know the father. I didn't know it. Well, I would have known them to have passed once or twice because I'd only been in the village for maybe a month, 6 weeks. No.
We are going to go into a 1 minute quick fire round and then we're done.
Okay, go for it. No one's called him off.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for your time, Gary.
Thank you.
Aldi or Lidl?
Aldi or Lidl. For me, it probably is Lidl. For my wife, it's Aldi.
England or Germany?
England.
Sunset or sunrise?
Oh, sunrise.
Blonde or brunette?
Blonde.
Manchester or Liverpool?
Neither.
Brown or pink?
I'm a Hammers man, by the way, East London boy. Brown or pink? Oh, I like them both. Can I have both?
Kerry or Dublin?
Kerry.
Spots or stripes?
Stripes.
Gardening or gym?
Gardening or gym? Suppose the gym.
Boccherini or Echo and the Bunnymen?
Echo and the Bunnymen.
Sun or moon?
Oh, jeez, both of them.
Emerald or ruby?
Green or red? Again, both.
Silver or gold?
We have to make choices. Can't we have it all?
You may answer whichever way you like.
Go on, go. What's the last one?
Silver or gold?
I'm a gold man. My wife's silver.
Beer or wine?
Beer or wine? I can't drink beer anymore. I used to be a beer man,
right?
But since surgery, I can't drink beer anymore.
Right. I'm not surprised.
It totally upsets my stomach.
Meat or cheese?
Oh, cheese and apple.
Onions or carrots?
Onions all day long.
Salt or pepper?
Oh, salt and pepper.
Chinese or pizza?
Chinese all day.
Hurling or rugby?
Rugby.
And finally, beach or forest?
Oh, both. Forest. Forest. But both, yeah.
Gary, you've been a brilliant guest on the May 2023 Menscape podcast. I want to thank you so much for your time.
No, thank you.
And a speedy recovery. It must be a huge thing to have your tummy taken out. God love you. Yeah. And
I appreciate that.
Hopefully we'll meet again soon and you won't whoop my ass as badly on the pool table as you did the last day.
I look forward to it. There's only one thing I'll say to everyone that takes the time to listen is, of all the tools that you put into your tool bag, don't put give up in there because it's useless. I never put it in my bag, so I never do it.
Never give up.
Never give up.
Fair play to you, man.
Now,
yeah.
I bid you a good evening, sir.
And you likewise. Thanks so much and God bless.
Thank you.
Cheers, Gary.
Menscape, the podcast with Carl.J. Ashley.